everyone, and welcome to the Chronicles of an Immigrant. Ah, I'm such a tease. Anyways, but yeah, hello everyone. I'm still tired. I'm tired. That's all I can say. I'm tired. I just want to be rich. I just want to be able to afford my lifestyle. Why do I have to hustle? I saw one LinkedIn post, and the guy said there are four options: work, option one, and be rich; two, marry a rich man and be wealthy; three, rob a bank. I'll be wealthy. Or four, if any of those don't work, I just start selling cocaine. So if podcasting doesn't work for me, you guys just know where I'll be. I don't want to be in jail, but just know that I'm trying one of those options because a girl needs to be able to afford a lifestyle. A girl is tired. I am tired. I just want to be able to wake up one day and just say, God, I'm going to Spain. I'm going to Japan. Where else can somebody go? My thinking faculty can't even tell me Singapore. I'm going to Singapore without having to worry about getting a visa, without having to worry about how much money is in my bank account, because now I'm watching my bank account every moment as if money's going to come. I have to wait for my paycheck. No money's going to come, but I'm watching my bank account like, okay, maybe somebody somewhere will just send me some change, which is not happening. So guys, please follow. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Please follow, like, and comment. That's the whole story. And that's what I'm telling you why it is a very, when you like, follow, and comment, and you watch our podcast, maybe one day I'll be able to afford my lifestyle. Thank you very much. So I'm going to my guest now. Hello. Exactly around people. They don't want to follow me. They don't want to like me. They don't want to watch me. They don't want to share with their friends. And if you don't do that, I can't afford my lifestyle.
It's coming, I promise you. It's gonna come.
Yeah. So hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am so well. How are you doing?
As I said, when I afford my lifestyle, you can answer that question. Because this hustle is real. It's a lot. Working, and apart from podcasting, I do another business on the side. So
hustling is all I know. So I can't even give you any words of encouragement besides keep hustling and you can get whatever you want.
Amen. Anyways, so what do you want to tell everyone your name, where you're from, why are you in the UK now, and then we'll pick it from there.
So my name is Carla Ikamwa. I live in Manchester, UK. I'm from Bermuda. And I have lived in Manchester since 2016, December of 2016. I arrived here, 2 of my 3 children, 9 overly packed suitcases, never seen Manchester in my life, and just decided because I'm interested, because I'm British. Bermuda is a British colony, so people that don't know, Bermuda is a tiny, tiny little island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but we are a British colony. So we have British passports, so we didn't have to worry about any sort of legality.
Yeah.
But it was still an experience as an immigrant.
That's it. It's always an experience. When I talk to people around, someone that's come from Bermuda on my podcast, they said, and everybody says, the Bermuda Triangle. You are
Okay. So let me start off by saying this. Because if I had a pound, you're talking about rich lifestyle. If I had a pound for every time someone mentioned the Bermuda Triangle, I'd be a very rich woman. But the Bermuda Triangle, it's a mythical thing, but it does exist in the sense of its 3 geographical spaces. Bermuda, the US, and somewhere else, right? And before modern times, when the ships used to go across, they would scrape what are called barrier reefs, so really sharp rocks that were under the water that they couldn't see. And so some would sink. So that's where that comes from. But I promise you people, planes do not disappear. Swamp things do not wash up on the beach. No one gets eaten. I've flown from the UK to Manchester probably 20 times in the last 8 years. The Bermuda Triangle does not exist,
No,
okay?
I checked Google. Google said 25 planes have disappeared and 20 ships are nowhere to be found.
Yeah, but that would have been in like the 1900s or the 1800s. They didn't have satellites and all this technology, what we have now, right? So every single time I meet people, I get two questions. Either, are you American? No, I'm not. Or, the Bermuda Triangle, how did you get out? There was this cashier. There was this cashier at Tesco, right? When we first moved, and she would be like, she notices we have an accent, and she was, where you from? I'm like, Bermuda. She asks about the triangle. I explained to her how I explained to you. Every time she saw us in Tesco, she'd say, oh, you still out of the triangle. To the point I stopped going to her line because I was like, I'm so sick of having the same conversation.
Maybe she has dementia. Maybe she forgets stuff a lot.
It used to literally annoy me, but it comes with being a Bermudian. You get asked about the Bermuda Triangle. If you don't, then that means that person, this is how you know that they don't know about Bermuda, never heard of it. Because then they go, you say, where are you from? I'm from Bermuda. And they go, oh, that's nice. So you know they don't know.
Yeah, because me, I didn't know. Well, when I told Palawe, I told my colleague as well, I have someone coming from this. Oh, I'm going to get involved in the Bermuda. I have to go Google it.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. You went and learned. But I promise you, no, it is not a real thing.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
So I can go to the Bermuda and not worry about my flight disappearing.
You don't.
All right. Thank you. I asked the person, asked somebody as well. And she's from the British, she's from the Virginia Islands.
Okay.
And I asked, how can I move to Bermuda? Can I move to the British Islands and get my British passport faster? And the answer was no.
No. No. That's a really good question because what people don't realize, and you get it as well, it's like, well, how come a British colony person can move to the UK, but a British person can't just move to Bermuda? Well, Bermuda is only 60 population of 63,000, right? So I always use this reference. Manchester United Stadium, all of Bermuda could fit in there, plus 10,000 people. So that's how small it is, right? On top of that, it's only 21 square miles, so it's very small. So imagine if this country was millions, if everyone decided they just wanted to go and live in Bermuda. It's just not possible. The other thing is jobs, so job protection as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. I love my island home, but it is exorbitantly expensive. Wow. So it's really interesting from the outside as such looking in. I'm still very connected to Bermuda. Family's there, my home is there, etc. But it's so obvious that people are suffering because of the economy. And I always give this as an example. A head of lettuce in Bermuda, the last I checked, was about $10, which is about, in today's rate, about £8, where we pay 85p. And in fact,
I can't have to eat lettuce, do I? I can just eat something else.
Yeah, which would probably be 10 times more expensive. Like, I went to Asda yesterday and bought some lettuce. And I was like, when did it become 85p? That's how British I've become with the food prices. But Bermuda's really expensive.
Ooh. So why did you leave Bermuda?
Why did I leave?
Yes.
There are several reasons. So it's twofold. I'm a journalist, been a journalist for 25 years now, 26 years. And in 2009, a gang war broke out. Now, Bermuda is very beautiful, beautiful people, but like anywhere else, it has its negatives as well. And we were having all these incidents of not just gun crime, but gun murders. And there was a gang war, and I lived smack in the middle of it, literally. And seeing young men from my neighborhood being murdered, having, of my 3 children, 2 sons, and also reporting on these incidents, but then also having to flip my hat really quickly and go home and comfort distressed children who had heard gunshots, who had heard screams and stuff. And it was just, I didn't know it initially, but I had post-traumatic stress disorder. And I remember I was doing a consultation with an organization, and we were having a discussion around violence, and I just burst into tears. And one of the ladies that was there, she was a therapist, and she put me on the side, and she was like, I think you need to have some counseling. Very bad breakup. And although it had happened a few years prior, we were still very much at war. And for me, what was hurting me was, how can you neglect your child, but drive close to your house to be with another woman with children? That was really eating at me. And then I was just broken. But then something happened, which I think was a really big blessing. And that was my older son, who was 10 at the time. He was doing a trial for British football team. And he did well. He was actually scouted. But in that, my youngest son, who was 6 at the time, was running on the sideline. And I had worked that day, and a cousin had watched him. And when I came to pick the boys up, someone said to me, a gentleman approached me, and he said, "Is this your boy?" He was the younger one. I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "He's very talented. It's like I specialize in talent with young people between 5 and 9." And he said, have you ever considered moving to the UK? And although I was totally stressed out and broken, I was like, no, because to me, I had this image of the UK of being just dark and damp and pretty accurate. Very cool as such, not just weather-wise, but just that's how I perceived the UK. So I was like, no. And he was like, "What do you do for work?" And at that point, I was running my own website, so I was working virtually anyway. And he said, would you consider it? And I was like, no. He gave me his card and he said, think about it. And then when I went to the therapist, because then I started the session, and she was like, you're going through this really deep depression. And I said, you know what? I'm out. I'm going to the UK. And so my daughter didn't want to come at the time because she was in her second last year to high school. And that's a really important time socially. And so I allowed her to stay, but it broke me because I have never not raised my children. So I left her in Bermuda with my mother, and then me and the boys left. And I remember, I can close my eyes and remember it like it was yesterday. When we came to Manchester, the sun was coming up and the sky was orange. And I just felt this wave of relief. Although I hadn't seen Manchester, although the place that I had secured, they pulled out 5 days before I was arriving. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I had told the boys for a few months leading up, because we left in December, because I had said, I wanted to start out 2017. If I was going, I wanted to wake up in 2017 in the UK. And so I said to the boys, it's just going to be us. We're not going to have any family around. Kind of like conditioning them to understand what we were doing. And they were fine. To this day, they have never cried to go back home.
Oh my God, that's so sweet, boys. So when you were in Bermuda, going through all that journey, all that heartbreak, all that, I don't know what to call it. A lot, is because you touched on you having a mental breakdown. And you're leaving Bermuda with the mindset that I want to start fresh. I want to see the world again from a different perspective.
Yeah, it was emotional. I was emotionally broken. Mentally, I've always been strong, right? But emotionally, I was just obliterated, right? And I had decided that if I had to raise my children virtually by myself, then what's the point? I might as well be in another country and really just raise my children by myself. That's how I looked at it. And I was just like, whatever I wanted my life to be going forward, I would have that life in Manchester. And I had a good life, like very well known, a public figure, all of that. I had a good life, but I was also very angry and very bitter. And everywhere I turned just reminded me. And remember, I told you that we were so small. And so even when I go home now, 8 years later, I go home at least once a year. I still get a little bit of anxiety when I go back, because it just, you see certain things. Like I have vowed I would never live in my house again. So I rented out when my daughter, once she's settled, she's returned to Bermuda, she's going to take over the house. If I was to move back to Bermuda, I don't think I could ever live there again because of that trauma of my neighborhood, all the young men in my neighborhood being murdered. So I was just like, I wanted my life here to be whatever I wanted it to be. And I actually used the move as an opportunity to purge a lot of people out of my life. So the first thing I did when I moved here, like within 2 hours maybe, is I changed my phone number. I took my Bermuda SIM and I threw it in my wallet. I knew I was going back to surprise my daughter for her 16th birthday in a couple of weeks. I put my SIM away. I put in a UK number and I only reached out to who I wanted to remain connected with.
Yeah. And then why the relationship? What was the reason why you ended?
Oh, no one's ever asked me. Interestingly, honestly, deception on his behalf, but also on mine, because I was trying to convince myself of something that really didn't exist. And it took me a long time to get there. And so, sometimes you have to let go of stuff and you think you have to hold on to it. And I was just fighting to hold on because it was a big complex, but also 1 year led to 2 years and then it's 5 years. And like, I don't want to give up a 5-year relationship. And then it was 7 years and next thing you know, it's 8 years, right? And even when I look back, my daughter said something to me once maybe about 3 years ago. She said, you guys broke up so long ago, but it feels like it wasn't that long because all of the drama and was lingering. And so I just felt like finally I had to, in order to have true peace, I had to just let it all go. And it's hard because especially there are children involved, right? But I made a choice, not to be a victim. And I think at one point in this journey, I was, right? I put myself and I take responsibility for that. So I can't really focus on what he did or didn't do anymore because I am in control of me. And so for me, it was like, listen, you've endured what you've endured. You've contributed towards this as well in one form or another. If you want your next X amount of years to be this way, then you say so. But I made a choice because I am very conscious. I have sons. I don't want my son to emulate that behavior. I have a daughter. I don't want my daughter to settle for less. So the only way that I can do that is to be the example for my children. And that gave me peace.
Yeah, because being someone that has a very strong personality, very resilient nature, convincing yourself that it's time to let go is hard because of the perception of how other people think. Did you ever feel that way?
No. So I have to be very transparent with you and the 10,000 viewers that get elected. So for me, I didn't want another failed relationship, right? And when I was pregnant, he was my high school sweetheart. And so, went our separate ways. And then I was in a relationship with a very abusive man. And when he found out I was pregnant, he left. And I tell people all the time, my son saved my life because either he would have killed me or I would have killed him. So fast forward when my old sweetheart came back into the picture and I was like, nah, I'm about to have a baby, blah, 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 blah. This is very early in the pregnancy. And he said, no, I'll be by your side. And so I think for me, it was my desperation, my work for my child to have a father. And then I didn't want any more children. And then I got pregnant. I was actually getting ready to leave the relationship, and I found out I was pregnant with my youngest son. And I was like, oh, I gotta stay. That's how I felt, right? And when I look back, I should have left it a long time ago. But I was putting my children's needs before mine. And so again, once you get that clarity of what do you really like, I just feel like when my children look at me, what do I want them to see? And I carried a lot of guilt around that. But what I've done is also I've talked to my kids. So the pandemic was awesome for us. Not the younger one at the time, because he was still like 11, I think, when the pandemic happened. But for my older two, we sat down during that lockdown, the first one where you really could not go anywhere, and we had some really heartfelt conversations. And I asked them, have I failed you as a parent? How do you feel that you have different dads? Do you feel that you lack anything? Have I listened to you? Have I failed you? And I would, whatever they had to say, no, I was willing to accept it. And my daughter, who's now 23, she's like, Mommy, you're not the first, you're not the last. Give yourself some grace. She's like, you've raised us so well. You've done so well. But yet you won't forgive yourself for something that you shouldn't even be harder on yourself for. And then my oldest son, because he was like 14, 15 at the time, 14, and he was like, all I needed to do, Mommy, is to listen to me more. So while there was so much loss in the pandemic for my family, it was such a win. Because once I was able to have that talk with them, it literally lifted so much, And so even now, I turned 50 in May. And shout out to the
50 sexy and fabulous.
She said it, say it again. But I also realized that I had to forgive myself. And the one thing I'd say to any young person as well, younger person, is you can get that time back. And so for me, I was mourning my mid-30s up to probably early 40s, right? And even now, it's funny, before I came here, I was watching Too Hot to Handle. And I was like, boy, if they had this show when I was 24.
I'd have been too hot to handle.
Oh boy, I would have been on that show. But my point is, enjoy every moment, right? Because the one thing we cannot get back is yesterday. And it took me this long to realize this, right? I spent so much time worrying about what happened that I was cheating myself of what was standing in front of me. And so I think that's so key. So I even say to my daughter, I'm like, girl, live your life, have fun, because the next thing you know, you're going to be 25, you're going to be 27, you're going to be 32. And you cannot get that time back. So I don't worry about back there. I have my moments sometimes, but for the most part, I just look forward.
Because those things, those experiences are what made you are today.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. It is very hard. And I had someone say that very thing to me a few days ago, because I was like, gosh, I posted a picture of myself when I was 17. And I said, if only I knew what I knew then, I'd have a reset. And they were like, no, because you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't have that experience.
Yeah, 100%.
So as long as my children tell me, they're like, we love you, like, relax. And they call me my first name, Carl, chill out. We love you, like, we're good. I'm married now, and I never saw that happening ever. So I'm okay with me.
Yeah, so when you then moved with your two kids to England, the gloomy England, like, what did you have to do? How was work? How was finding your balance?
So I've always worked for myself. I've worked for myself since 2012. I brought enough money so that I wouldn't have to work for about a year.
That would have been
I saved a lot. Yeah, I saved, because first of all, I didn't trust anyone to watch my children. I did work for about 3 weeks, and I've never not had a job that short. But I worked for this company.
Yeah.
Supposed to be as a marketing executive. But it was just the most horrible experience ever. And I remember they were like 30 minutes from my house and they said I have to be there at 8 to 5. And I said, listen, my boys are 7 and 10. Can I please come at 9? And I would never take a lunch break and I'll finish at 5. And they were so inflexible. And it wasn't stimulating. And so I just remember the HR person coming in from Scotland and I go in her office and I just cry my eyes out. And she's like, I knew you wouldn't laugh here because it wasn't stimulating me enough. And she paid me for an extra month. She said, you don't have to come back. And she paid me for an extra month. And so I was just like, I did work in a PRU, which is a school for children with behavioral issues. Loved that. Did that for a year. But otherwise than that, I just always consulted and worked from home. And so because I always wanted my children to have me available for when they needed me. And because I've always done journalism and PR, I can do that virtually. So it's allowed me to have that freedom. So since 2012, I've probably worked 2 years for someone else.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I Googled. You know how I met you? I told you. I told you I Googled you.
To stalk me, people.
Now I'm a professional stalker. I need to add that to my resume, honestly. You know what? I just, if I'm looking for someone that is black, I'll say black businesswomen in Manchester. And then Google brings me to some people, and I go to Instagram, stalk them. Go to LinkedIn, stalk them.
And I'm open, so anyone can stalk me.
So I'm a professional stalker, and then I saw that you have to share up, and then the women summit. You're very, very passionate about women.
So Women's Empowerment Summit started that in 2016 in Bermuda. So it's so funny because I was like, you talk about hustle when you start. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hustle, make some money, some extra money, so that I can take it to the UK. So I'm like, what could I do? What could I do? And for one thing that I truly value is confidentiality. So if you talk to me, Mo, I may talk about your story to someone, but I would never say it to you. And so I've always had women and some men, but primarily women, especially single moms, who they'll reach out to me, they'll ask me for advice, they'll pour their hearts out to me. And I was just like, okay, what am I good at where I can pull these skills together? It's like, okay, I'm going to have this event. So the Women's Empowerment Summit was born and we had it in November of 2016 and I was leaving December. Beautiful event, well attended, made not one penny, right? Because the decorations alone were like $4,000. It was just a lot to produce. And so I was like, okay, cool. It was a great event. I'm out. I come over here. And then around this time in 2017, someone says, so when's the next summit? I'm like, there's no next one. I'm not doing it anymore. And they're like, why not? It's like, it was a flop financially. It was like, yeah, Carla, but it was impactful. So this year will be year number 9.
Really? Okay, so can you tell me the revenue model about it? When I think I have a problem. This person in me is just, I go to a bar, I go to a restaurant, I go to a place where I see a lot of people, and what I see is dollars. Like I count, like how much are these people making? I'm a business person, and my head, everything I see is money. So what's the revenue model for that?
So you know what? It's funny. I was doing my numbers for this year last night. So what I do is I would look at projected capacity. Okay. So let's just say 100, right? And then I have patrons. So patrons pay a higher price. Okay. And then I would say, okay, so we'll have patrons. You'll also have early bird tickets, which is discounted. And then here's the rest, but I limit it. So I may say, okay, 30 early bird tickets, which means it caps it. And then it has that. So I'll work out. That's how I do it. And then, of course, you have your expenses. So I have a committee this year because usually it's just myself and another really good friend of mine. And before that, it was another one, and we just did it. We just put it on. But now it's kind of forming into a real little operation. But again, it's in my heart.
Yeah.
So it's sacred space for women, women only, no men in the space whatsoever, not even the photographer.
Oh,
no.
When is this happening in Manchester?
So I do it in Bermuda every year. And it's funny because 2 days ago, a lady that lives in St. Helens, she said, Carla, would you consider putting one on in Bermuda? In Manchester. So I'm actually contemplating doing that. But I find Manchester very cliquey. It's been difficult to break into the Manchester market as such. But I think I may look at doing it invitation. So I send you an invitation and then you come if you choose to come, as opposed to leaving it out there to see who comes into the net. But it's one of my dreams. A good friend of mine, Tahira, we've created Empowerment UK. Yeah. Which is the point. We did a paint and sip for young girls in March, and that went really well. Okay. And so we're looking at our next event. So we're considering putting on something of that ilk here.
I think it would really do well, because even talking for myself, for instance, as a young woman, living in Manchester, I think I would like to. It would benefit everyone doing that, because it's quite. I don't know. I don't want to say hard.
Oh, it's hard. I'll say it for you.
I don't want to say, but as a young person living in Manchester, not even in Manchester, living in the UK, trying to find your way, an immigrant, you're trying to fit in. You don't know where you fit in. So in a space where it's just women, talking, especially women that have been through the life experiences, women that are doing well, just showing you that the dream is possible.
Yeah, for sure. And even with that, you talked about difficult. So people find it so hard to believe when I say this, but I really don't socialize. And I'm
really, you look like an extroverted, like an extrovert.
I am. Yeah. I really am, but I just don't socialize, right? And so, people invite me to stuff. I don't go. And I'm like, you see my sons outside. That's who I hang with. When my daughter's here, I hang with her. And I think that's actually one part of my Manchester life that's missing, is that I need to meet people and get out there. So I'm working on it. It's funny. I always say to people, I'm shy. They're like, you're lying. You're not shy. But I just don't force myself in spaces. And then I think what people also need to understand is just because we look alike, it doesn't mean that we have the same values or attraction. So people on the outside looking in at us as Black women, for example, they'll say, oh, those are two Black women. But you're an African woman. I'm a Bermudian woman. I'm not American. I'm not Caribbean, right? We have different cultural values, different traditions. Some people are so ignorant, they don't see that. They just see two Black women, so they must be the same. Exactly. They must like the same thing. Yeah. And I find that here, that's what I struggle with, because I'm like, where do I fit? So I'm married to a Nigerian man, which now it's so funny. I could spot a Nigerian woman a mile away. Makes my heart patter, makes me closer to him. Yeah, I was like, it is funny because then you have people that think that everyone is Nigerian. And I'm like, no, they're not. I can tell they're not. I become a little professional Nigerian spotter. But, it's difficult, right? To navigate this space. And I've been here for 8 years, just about. But I'm also, this is, I guess, where my age comes in. I'm settled. So if I was in, like, my daughter's experience was different from mine. She went to uni here and she hated the experience. She didn't meet, and I'm like, you don't want any friends? She's like, no. And so I'm like, girl, you need to get out there. But she's not extroverted. She's quite introverted, but she just didn't feel a connection. It wasn't that she wasn't open, but she wanted to connect and she didn't feel that. Yeah. And so it is a difficult space to navigate.
For me, for instance, when I first got to, when I went to Lancaster University for my master's. And because I came to Lancaster University during the pandemic, it was really isolating. So I met Flower on a group chat. I stalked her. I'm a stalker. I'm a born stalker. So basically, I was going to come to a new country, and we had this African group chat for Lancaster, and Lancaster had the campus in Ghana. And I was like, I went through that group chat and just randomly picked people, and I sent them a message. Hi, I'm Moyeni, blah blah blah, coming to Lancaster. Do you want to be my friend? That kind of thing.
That works,
And that's how I met Folawe. And the thing about Folawe is that she knows the whole world. So when you meet her, you met 10 people. But I didn't know.
I gotta remember that for the empowerment summit. But that's how it worked. I met a friend in London that very same way. We were in this group chat, and the chat was kind of not my vibe, but I liked it because it allowed me to connect with people. And one day I got a message from this girl. She was like, "It's something about you I like." This is really weird, but do you want to be friends?
Yeah.
5 years later, we're still as close as that.
That's it.
So it's nothing. Listen, I will never judge anyone for making connections on social media.
Ever.
I can't.
You're not talking about a lot of experience. Yeah, did you meet your husband on social media too? Yeah. There was this seminar. There was this thing in church. I went to church last Sunday, and this couple, they came out. They were giving their testimony as regards to she being a Nigerian woman in her mid-30s, coming, like, people always make this comment that make sure you bring your husband from Nigeria because there are no men in the UK. And honestly, that's what people say, and for people like us that are approaching 30, sometimes it gets scary. And then she was like, so she was thanking God that, she didn't listen to all those people, that she met her husband on an Instagram comment section of Nathaniel Bassey. So Nathaniel Bassey is a famous gospel singer, and she was commenting on his post, and her husband now was commenting as well.
I can't judge that.
So right now, what I got from our testimony was that I need to start connecting and dropping people messages.
Listen. And also, people need to open their minds, right? So I do think, because it's funny, because people say, oh my gosh, Carla, you don't meet, this is before I got married, you don't meet men in Manchester. I'm like, no, I don't. But also, I just go to the grocery store or to football training, right? But I find so many people say that, like, they can't find an insert in brackets, whether it's a woman or a man in Manchester, right? And I'm like, there's so many singles saying this. How come singles can't connect?
Yeah.
But I would say open your mind. It's no secret. I met my husband on Instagram. That's the whole story for a whole nother podcast.
I'm gonna start. Yeah. So I'm gonna do my strategy now. Let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who is confident in who they are, God-fearing, successful, and who's not afraid of strong women. Who's not going to be afraid of success I'm going to become because the person is chasing their own success. So, and I realized that for me to be that kind of person, I have to start commenting on people's posts that are talking about success, entrepreneurship. So I'm a Stephen Bartlett lover. So now on LinkedIn, once Stephen Bartlett is posting, I'm going to be commenting on Stephen Bartlett's post. That is my strategy now.
I don't know if that's going to work.
But because I assume that people that are Stephen Bartlett fans are going to be successful people.
Well, you know what? As I've shared this story with people, probably not on a podcast, but with my husband, he was commenting on my stuff. I didn't even know it was a man or a woman because he had a private profile, right? And then when we got to talk, we just talked and bonded, right? And I'm older than him. Of course, Nigerians are probably judging, and some did, right? I'm older than him, and at one point it bothered me, and he was like, and I was doing the math, and I was like, but when I'm this, you're gonna be that, and he was like, yeah, but it's always gonna be that because that's our age difference, right? And if you see us together, I think he's so much more mature than me personally. But imagine if I had said, so here's the fun. One of my criteria with a man before was he had to be a minimum of 6 foot. A minimum. If you were under 6 foot, do not talk to me. My husband is maybe 5'7" or 8",
Okay.
right? And then it's funny because I'm 5'1", and he's like, "Oh, you're not my spec because my spec is usually a really tall woman." So I'm not his historical spec, right? But when you just get to know each other, and if you put those walls, the barriers, the pretenses aside, you just never know, right? Your husband could be an Irish man, or it could be, you know what I mean? It's like whatever it's supposed to be. Because before I met him, I had given up. I was like, you know what, Lord? I'm done. Listen, this gonna be just a hot, sexy nana who's just gonna pimp her way through life. Get married at 65 for some man's pension. That was my plan, right? That was my plan.
That's not a bad plan.
That was my plan. And then he came along and threw everything off the trail, right? And I have no regrets. Like, that's my person.
Yeah.
Did I, if anyone would have told me that I would have married, no matter what place he was from on the continent, but that I would have married an African man, I would have been like, you have lost your mind. Like, no way. I cannot imagine myself with anyone else but him. So you just never know. You just gotta go with the flow. Don't look. Just let it happen.
You know, I just took from this now. It's gonna be. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to Love Is Blind. You know the show Love Is Blind? Because now that's the only way. Because if Stephen Barla's comment section doesn't work, I just go to Love Is Blind UK. And maybe that will work.
You go this way, huh?
One of it has to work. So what would I thought you commented on one person's comment section on LinkedIn, and that statement, as it's been a while though you did that comment, like 2-3 months ago, but it stuck with me. And he was like, he went to, I think, a summit or something, and the person said, "Step into your fear." I don't know if you remember that you saying that comment.
I do. I do remember. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember.
Yes.
Right, because I remember you commenting.
Yes.
But that's the essence of life. If I didn't decide to move here, my children wouldn't be where they are now. I wouldn't be where I am now, right? Was I afraid? Oh, heck yes. Terrified, right? But if you believe, and especially, as being in a foreign country, so I'm not afraid to ask questions, but I'm not afraid to observe and try, and we fail too, right? Anyone watching this, don't get it twisted. I have failed a lot, right? Don't be afraid. But what I do now, I don't take failures personally. So before it was like, oh, I messed up, oh, this. No. In life, there are so many people who we see as successful, but we don't see what they had to do in order to get there, how many times they had to try, right? So what's the worst that can happen? If you face your fear, there's only two things that can happen. You're either going to succeed or you're going to fail. And as long as you don't die, you can just try again and succeed. And that's, I've made a conscious decision. Turning 50 for me, I made a conscious decision that I will not do anything that I want to do. I will try it, and if I don't like it, it's like, okay, that's not my cup of tea. But when I close my eyes at 97, because my granny died at 97, so I'm saying I'm going to die at 97. When I died at 97,
7 years to go,
I don't want to look back and say, you know what? I wish that I would have done that. And then the other thing I think, we put these restrictions on ourselves because of age, right? So when I was 21, I graduated uni at 21 with my undergraduate degree, and I was like, I'm going to be married by 24. I'm going to have 3 children. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then I was 24. I had no children. I was partying like a rock star. I was like, married to who? No way. Right? I had my daughter at 27. I thought I was being married. I turned 40, wasn't married. I was like, okay, 45, wasn't married. To some people, they'll write that off, right? I just didn't care anymore because I had life. And so for me, it's just like, even walking here today in a part of a city, I've been in the city for 8 years, never seen that street on my life. I said to my son, we need to get down here more often.
You need to come out more.
I need to come out. I need to explore.
Yeah.
So do you want to look back in your life and say, I wish I would have done that? I say it to young people all the time. And even now, like my view of what I thought 50 was like old and decrepit and what have you. Oh no. No. I'm like, I think it's about 80. I think 80 is old, right? Because I still feel young and vibrant.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue that until I can't continue anymore. And so if you want to move and you know, this is Immigrant Center's podcast, anyone that's contemplating moving, if you could do it, do it. Even if you do it for a year, just do it. Open up your mind, and you never know what's awaiting you.
100%. Step into your fear.
Yes.
Step into your fear.
That's it.
Okay. I was going to take a dilemma, but we'll take it next time. Should we? Okay. Okay. I've been given the go ahead from my producer that I can go ahead and take a dilemma. So some people send us their problems.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and the problem is I'm going to read it out, and I'd like to hear what you think. So this particular problem, you want to hear it, trust me. Okay, so this is like a follow up to a dilemma we read before. So we read a dilemma called mortgage versus marriage, and this person then brought a follow up question as regards that. So this person says, as a single woman looking for love in the UK, it's been very hard. So I want your advice on this. It says, I am 37. I live in a nice 1-bedroom apartment with a salary of 50K yearly. I'm doing okay for myself and I have a hair business on the side. So I'm comfortable. My dilemma now is I want to move out of my apartment to my own home, but people around keep saying that I will intimidate men. And this will make it much harder to I will intimidate men, and this will make it much harder to find a husband, whatever. For a woman in her 30s, this is scary. Please, what do I do? Do I keep renting to make myself more approachable, or just follow my dreams with the hope that the right man comes? Did you get that?
I sure did. I sure did. So I have to ask, so she's an African woman?
I shouldn't say, but I assume so, because this is an African problem.
Well, and that's the reason I was asking, because one thing that I've realized being married to an African man is that the Western world thinks a bit differently, because I hear that and I don't see any negatives in that, right? Yeah. But I do get it. Now, okay, I'm trying to be nice. No, I don't think it's her responsibility to make a man feel comfortable, right? If she owns her home, why not live in it? She owns her home, unless she's going to hide it. She still owns her home. So why would you pay rent when you own your house, right? Because I just feel if someone is going to be intimidated, they're going to be intimidated, no matter where you live, no matter what you have. She says she makes 50K. That in itself, it depends on how she carries herself. Now, would that be something that you would share with a man off the bat? I would say no, right? As long as she's not being arrogant about it, I don't see why she should. I think she should shine in who she is. The right man for her is for her. Yeah. Right? But another thing that we, as Black women, I would say, tend to do is we tend to dilute ourselves to make people comfortable. Yeah. And I just don't agree with that. And I also believe in you shouldn't have to downplay. I don't think people should apologize for being wealthy either. Now, I'm not saying be nasty about it, But if you have a standard, you have a standard. And if you expect someone to meet or exceed your standard, I say be unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
You said earlier, like marrying a rich man. I say go for it. and in my experience, and that's one of the things that I found with men, and thankfully my husband's not like this, but what I found with men using this latest dilemma, they'd be like, oh my gosh, she makes 50K, she has a house, she probably has a nice car, oh, it's so attractive. Get in the relationship with her, and then it's, she makes 50K, but she has a nice house. It then, everything that was attractive then becomes a deterrent. But that's not her problem. That's their problem.
Exactly, 100%.
And we need to stop as women being apologetic about that, right? But then again, culturally, I understand why she may feel, my word, not hers, that she's failing, right? Because even like, I'll use my husband. When we got married, he was 36. He turned 37 the next day. And I said to him, are you considered what we say behind the eight ball because you're getting married so early? He was like, yeah. And then people even criticized us. Like, how could you marry a woman older than you? But again, I come from from the Western world where I have a few friends that are between 12 and 20 years older than their spouses. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked about the cultural side of it. But baby girl, listen to Auntie Carla. Don't be hard on yourself. You're accomplished. Walk in that. The right man with the right spirit is gonna come and get you.
100%.
I promise you.
Yeah, she could go to the Rebellious comment section.
Go to a place also, right? Women, we need to position ourselves in places to meet these people, right? We can't look for high caliber men in low caliber places.
Valid.
We can't.
Valid, preach, sister, preach it. Valid.
But we also, I think that we as women, we dilute ourselves, right? We try to say, I like him, he's nice. It doesn't matter that he doesn't, whatever that your standard may be, and we compromise. And if it's the wrong person, it's the worst decision we could ever take for ourselves. So no, sis. Put yourself in spaces where you'll meet men like that. And if they're intimidated, they're not supposed to be with you.
Valid. That spoke to me. That spoke to us because, it spoke to me. It not speak to you anyway. It spoke to me because, approaching my 30s, a lot of, especially like my parents can call me, or my mom was sending a message yesterday when I called her for her birthday. She was like, by this time next year, you'll be carrying your home baby. I'm like, I'm not even married. I don't have a boyfriend. I'm single. Please, I'm not gonna.
But my mom used to do the same thing to me. My sister is 6 years younger, and she got married, I want to say, either in her late 20s or early 30s. I can't remember, right? And my mom's like, what? You're going to wait until I have a walking stick and can't see before you get married? Why are you taking so long? But being married just wasn't my end goal. I wanted to be married, but I wasn't about to force myself to be married, right? And so now I got married at 49. I was like, okay, didn't see that coming, but that was what was in my cards. And I have friends who have gotten married and their marriage lasts 5 years, 6 years. They got married in their 20s or their 30s. I tell my husband, we do this once and for life, okay? And I think that you appreciate things at different ages. But then the other variable, real quick, is children. Because if she doesn't have children, I have a cousin who didn't have children because she wanted to be married. She's now 53, 54, and that's one of her regrets. That she didn't, because she was so determined to not have children before marriage. She's still not married. She can't have children now. So it may not congeal with culture or your culture, but you know what I mean?
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Subtle, but I get it. Yeah. So we're gonna close now, but before you go, this is the place where dreams are valid. 5 years from now, a year from now, maybe 6 months from now, one day when you listen back or people listen, like, oh yes, I actually said this in my dreams and it happened. So what's your dream?
My dream, hard one. My dream, I actually do want to spend more time in Nigeria. I want to open up a business there. But my dream is to always be happy, to be at peace, and to live abundantly. That is my dream.
And they are valid.
My dream is valid.
Valid, period. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you didn't get anything from this podcast, I want you to get this. For all those women out there, single, searching, married, wherever you are, don't put yourself in spaces that are not just meant for you. As she said, you can't find what you're looking for in, I would call it, let me summarize it, in dirty places. That is where I go from all this. So yes, we have, as women, we have to be confident in who we are and not be afraid of it. For all the immigrant women out there, please and please, in the workplace, in life, wherever you are, be confident in who you are. Don't let imposter syndrome push you down. And thank you for listening in. Thank you very much. If you didn't get all what I said at the beginning in the introduction, please like, comment, subscribe, because a girl is hustling and a girl has to do it. So like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.